Good morning. This morning we're going to be talking about transparency with Hippo Taatila.
Good morning. We only have a limited amount of time, so let's kick things off with a small story which for me is a key to today's subject, transparency, and somewhat introduction to yours truly. So we go back in the days to ancient 2004, before smartphone era, before Brexit and before Trump, to the good old days, if you will. Recognize him? Okay, that's me. I'm 22-year-old. I had moved to Helsinki 2 years before that, from a town of one traffic light in southwestern Finland. I had a terrible taste in fashion, which should be visible here. I hadn't been able to land myself a college spot at that age. So in a nutshell, I did what dropouts do. I drank too much, I worried too much, and I had several minimum wage jobs just so I could afford the cockroach nest I used to call home. But despite my poor situation, I was determined one day I could become like these people, a pro rider. You recognize them? Bret Easton Ellis, Donna Tartt, and Tina Fey. I had already written thousands of pages of unpublished stuff. I had worked as a reporter for the small hometown newspaper, which is not actually really anything to brag about, but anyway. And I had studied writing in 2 community colleges with actually quite decent teachers. And since I was a filmaholic, I applied to Helsinki Art and Media College, and I hoped that one day I could become a film and TV screenwriter. That's mostly because 2 or 3 years of drifting, they had done it for me. I couldn't take it anymore. So I harnessed my full determination and my full focus. I practiced and I prepared. I learned techniques. And eventually, I was on this small handful of people that made it to the final round of the entrance exam. Only 2 of 3, I can't remember which, were selected in. After 2 weeks of exams, after the final round, one warm spring morning, my big brother drove me to the school lobby to see the list of people who made it. The list was short. My name wasn't in it. And I took the result as a personal insult. My big brother tried to calm me down, but I went all Beyoncé on him. How can they do this to me? I'm a misunderstood genius. Those nobodies. They don't know who they're dealing with. To put all things worse, I had put all the eggs in one basket. I hadn't even applied for any other school since I was so sure I would get in. But instead, again, one more year of waiting, and I was about to turn 23 next December. I felt I was a fossil. I was ancient. There were kids my age who had already graduated from college. They had families and they had jobs. I was still trying to get in. So, I continued doing bar and restaurant odd jobs that summer just to pay the rent on my ramen noodles. I ate a lot of ramen noodles back then. At some point during late July 2004, I received a call from this rent-a-worker company. They said, you know, there's a restaurant and they need a kitchen porter 5 hours a day, 5 days a week until December. I thought, okay, actually that sounds pretty fair. 5 days, 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, and weekend bartending shifts. I can actually write on the evenings, I can write on nights. That sounds decent, okay. So I accepted their offer. Where is this restaurant? Oh, it's the school cafeteria of this Helsinki Arts and Media School. So there I was on the first day of semester, wearing a green apron and a green bandana. I was standing behind the conveyor belt. I saw all these beautiful 20-something people. They are socializing and they are brainstorming. They are putting their ideas into practice. And they could see me stuck in their dirty plates into a huge industrial dishwasher, listening to heavy metals with my earphones on and cussing in my mind. In my first day of work, in a matter of minutes, I saw two really familiar faces approaching. They were the people who had been accepted to this screenwriting program before me. They had this dumbfounded look on their faces when they saw me collecting their knives and forks. And there was a moment of silence, which was probably around 3 seconds, but it felt like 2 years. And then the other one took this big friendly smile on her face, went like, "Oh, wow, you're here too." I wasn't laughing that day, but today it feels like it was part of a necessary process. Oh, long story short, I was never accepted at that art school. I tried again the year after, but I got cut at the early stages. I moved to England, then after a few months moved back to Helsinki. I got to the university. Fast forward. I'm just going to summarize that here I am today. I'm not a screenwriter, I never have been, not that I wouldn't want to be, but I have been writing professionally for a decade. My job hasn't made me incredibly rich, but I have been able to make myself a living out of things I love. And I have had the opportunity to work with some of the most established professionals of the country, or even the world, in media, literature, and sport. 5 of my books have been published, 4 of them by major companies. I have 2 more books coming in 2017 and 1 in 2018. And I have also been able to find purpose in many of those setbacks that happened in my days of young adulthood. Okay, so why am I telling you guys this? Creative Mornings wanted me to talk about transparency, and I really pondered, what do I have to say about the subject? And the answer is everything. At this point of my career, at the age of 34, I want to be as open as humanly possible. Being open about the experiences that have made me who I am, as well as process I am going through right now, because they give people I work with a better understanding of who are they working with. And when I see other people being transparent of their past and present and fears instead of just hiding behind facades, for me it creates an atmosphere of trust. And trust is essential for every work. I could have come here before you just to show a polished resume. Here's my master's degree, and it was reviewed like this. Here are the places I used to work at. I was really successful. Look at what critics has to say about my books. This and this famous guy, they recommend me. Hey, look, please follow me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, follow me on the streets, and please send me a heart on Tinder. In today's work life, we hear so much about these huge concepts, like innovation or branding or customer relation. We have a legion of merchandisers yelling outside the box, while usually those people are operating inside the box, thinking what it would be like outside the box. It's usually, I'm not saying always, but usually pretty much nothing but hot air. Talk with no content. But I have come to the conclusion that all this talk is part of the dogmatics of the way of our economy is functioning today. None of us is sweating on the fields. We're not hunting or planting or harvesting. Less and less people are dependent on our work, and that's good. That brings liberties. Big unions are crumbling, huge monopolies, they are shattering. We mostly create data and content for each other. At the same time, some politicians, some lobbyists crack the whip and try to make us feel bad because in our subconscious we understand that, we are privileged and there's nothing to escape that. And at the same time, there is a thick uncertainty about the future. This is why we feel the urge to run in the treadmill faster and faster so that we don't fall off. In a nutshell, we all are alarmed. Economies, politicians are. Therefore, there is all this double talk, all the smoke, all the mirrors. And we all come to the job market anxious and uptight, with our blood pressure up and a constant nagging headache bothering us. Does it make us better in our work? No. Does it make us more creative? No, it does not. Does it make us more productive? No, it does not. There could be a different approach, from management all the way to the eager beavers we are. Instead of covering ourselves with Teflon, Why don't we come to each other and the job market as human beings with all the bumps and bruises we have? All of our faults, all of our losses and shortcomings that have formed us into human beings we are today. Wouldn't that be a better way to make us help each other? Trigger warning, a cliche. There's a crack in everything, but that's where the light comes in. So says Leonard Cohen, he's my man. But please, don't think I'm talking about an everlasting group therapy session or a massive tear-eyed circle jerk. We don't have to blabber on about our problems and hardships and difficulties. But instead, we should embrace the learning experiences we've had. We can show our coworkers, customers, and superiors what we have learned from all this. Pretty much all the creative work we do nowadays is based on human interaction. We all adopt roles for many reasons, and it is true that roles can be important tools for us to achieve our goals. And at the same time, when I talk with really successful people, those who have really made it, I hear the same story time and time again. People achieve the most when they stop acting and focus on being whatever they are. When we are transparent about the processes in both personal life and in work, and we show even a glimpse of who we really are, we are more likely to create an atmosphere of trust. Everybody has some kind of a gasp about who they are, how they function, and with what kind of people they can work with. Someone doesn't do anything for weeks before the deadline, and then for 3-4 days they go 24 hours a day. Other people, they spend 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, for a month, and these both people get the job done in time. Both end up with same result, but they really can't follow the same method. Actually, Finnish Secretary of State had this anecdote about apple and watermelons and caps. I don't really remember. What was it all about? Let's take an example. Writers. Not that I mean that they are writers. When some people write an article, they spend days and days polishing the details of the first version. They want it to be as perfect as possible. But then there are people who write 8 or 9 versions, and they say, like, you know, these first 2 or 3 versions, they're actually bullshit. I just need to get my engine running. Some people need a maximum amount of creative liberty. Other people say that, you know, I need deadlines, I need supervision. Some people love group work. They live for it. Some people are like, you know, I do this thing alone, and then we'll see you at the meeting. Both kind of people are important. If we all agree to be as transparent as possible, we are much more likely to land in a correct position. And if we are transparent in the beginning of a process, for sure we are more likely to adopt the virtue of transparency while we work with and for other people. Of course, for all this to work, we need the basic knowledge of our cognitive process. We have to know what we are like as employees. We cannot just socialize our way into business, or some people have tried, and some people maybe have even succeeded in it. But at the same time, based on my experience, 1/3 of work we do nowadays is about getting along with people. And usually transparency is the key, instead of trying to mesmerize people with huge, terrifying concepts and pretending to be bulletproof. I have been talking about transparency as an individual virtue. How about transparency as a virtue of a workplace? My favorite subject. Based on my experience, I can say transparency in work indeed forces individuals to perform on the highest possible level. This couldn't happen if individuals weren't accountable. In a transparent work environment, everybody has to step up, and it makes people stronger. At some point, people will be in doubt. At some point, people will feel pressure. They will even be anxious or terrified. But there's also a supportive community behind them. And once they get the job done, it will empower them and make them better at their work. All for one and one for all. Also, transparency makes people more aware of their strengths and areas of development. And this is a huge thing for both work environment and the individual. In a transparent work community, small subgroups are always formed inside bigger groups, and people are in constant motion. They're not afraid to ask for help. They do not withhold anything in a fear that they could actually upset someone. In an ideal situation, people would be positively dependent on each other, and at the same time, nobody would have to step on each other's toes, because everybody knew they could trust on each other. And if there was a weaker link or somebody who is not yet up to the task, it will be visible and it will be dealt with. And probably the thing that could be the most important, since every workplace needs resources, is the client. If workplace is transparent and active and gets the job done, clients will come back and they will bring others with them. The good word spreads. Clients want to know who they are working with, and transparency can help. Clients want to see human faces instead of Colgate smiling mannequins. When we are transparent, we start building trust, and trust is the key to customer relation. I was asked to keep this under 20 minutes, so time for a few more slides. Not too long ago, actually right after finished Midsummer Day, Juhannus, I was asked to write a book. Of course, I was flattered that they asked me, but at the same time I was wondering, you know guys, there are so many writers who would be suitable for this project. You guys know I am challenging, you guys know I'm stubborn. You guys know that if I have strong views about something, I won't back off just simply because that would make things easier. The answer I got was that yes, actually Hippo, we know you're a challenging person. That's exactly why we want you. You know who you are, you do things your own way, and you admit when you need help. Most importantly, you can get the job done in time. But now that I have been blabbering about transparency for 18 minutes, there's always a caveat in everything. I appreciate honesty, to be sure. I want to be honest with all you wonderful people here. I'm not sure if maximum transparency would have helped me in my 20s. It could be that transparency is a virtue of professionals. So, just to mess with you guys, just to spin things around and pull the rug from under your feet, you need to learn when to be transparent, and you need to know when to put up or shut up or stay humble and concentrate. Transparency is a virtue indeed, and it's helpful, but it's a virtue among few. The same knife can help you slice the bread or cut your own thumb. Thank you for listening, everyone. I had a blast, and if you have any questions or thoughts, I'm going to be here all night.